If you were to dedicate just 90 days, 3 short months to a single goal, a single direction, and a single purpose, you would astonish yourself. 90 days may not sound like much, yet in that brief window you could transform your entire life. The truth is most people drift not because they lack time, but because they lack focus. Focus is the great multiplier. It takes ordinary effort and turns it into extraordinary achievement. It channels the scattered energy of your days into a concentrated beam that can cut through the hardest obstacles. But here's the secret: focus isn't something you find. It's something you build. Imagine starting today. For 90 days you rise with one clear intention. You write it down. You live by it. You work toward it every single day, even if progress seems invisible. At first the world won't notice. Your results may not change immediately. But something inside you will begin to shift. You'll feel direction replacing confusion, calm replacing anxiety. You'll start to sense a quiet strength growing within you. By the 30th day, you'll begin to notice patterns. Distractions that once controlled you start losing their grip. Habits that once slowed you down start fading away. You realize that focus is not about saying yes to everything that's good. It's about saying no to everything that isn't aligned with your purpose. By the 60th day, momentum takes over. The energy you once wasted on doubt is now fueling your growth. People around you may begin to wonder what changed, why you seem so composed, so certain. It's not luck, it's discipline. It's what happens when your mind and actions finally move in the same direction. And when the 90th day arrives, you'll look back and hardly recognize the person who began. You'll be sharper, more confident, more alive. You will have proven to yourself that transformation doesn't require a lifetime. It only requires consistent focus day after day. The difference between those who dream and those who achieve is rarely talent. It's focus. 90 days of concentrated effort can do more for your life than years of scattered activity. The person you become through that discipline, that unwavering commitment, is the real reward. So decide. Choose your target. Commit to it completely for the next 90 days. The clock is ticking, but this time it's counting upward toward the best version of yourself. For 90 days, give yourself completely to one idea, one purpose, one goal. Not halfway, not when you feel inspired, but with a level of commitment so deep that every thought, every action, and every decision flows from it. Most people underestimate what 90 days of absolute focus can do. They spend years scattering their efforts, jumping from one distraction to another, wondering why nothing changes. But the truth is, transformation does not require years. It requires concentrated effort, sustained over time, directed toward a single aim. When you wake up each morning with one clear direction, you stop wasting your mental energy on indecision. Every action begins to align with your goal. You no longer ask, "What should I do today?" because the answer is already decided. Focus removes confusion. It replaces noise with clarity. The first few days will be difficult because the mind resists discipline. It wants variety, novelty, and distraction. But once you train it to stay on course, something powerful begins to happen. You begin to see results. At first, the changes are small. You notice you're more alert, more present, more in control of your time. You stop chasing everything that looks urgent and start giving your best to what's truly important. That's when you begin to separate from the majority of people, because most never stick with one thing long enough to master it. The ones who do are the ones who rise above the rest. Around the 30th day, your habits start to shift. You become conscious of how often you used to waste time and how little those distractions gave you in return. Your focus sharpens. You begin to value silence, solitude, and intentional work. You realize that focus isn't about pushing harder. It's about eliminating what weakens you. The less you divide your attention, the faster you grow. The more you protect your time, the stronger your results become. By the 60th day, discipline becomes a rhythm. You no longer fight yourself to stay consistent. It feels natural. You're more productive in 1 hour than you used to be in an entire day. People around you start to notice something different. They see calm in your face, purpose in your eyes, and conviction in your voice. That's what focus does. It gives you a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. You carry yourself differently because you know where you're going. You know what you're building. Each day, you begin to trust yourself more. You no longer need motivation from outside sources because you've discovered something deeper. Momentum. Momentum is built from repeated action, and once it begins, it carries you further than effort alone ever could. Your focus has created energy, and that energy begins to attract opportunities that match your direction. What once felt out of reach now feels inevitable. By the 90th day, you've rewired your thinking. You've replaced hesitation with decisiveness, distraction with discipline, and doubt with belief. You no longer measure time by how many hours you spend, but by how deeply you invest them. The world around you may not have changed completely, but you have, and because you have, everything else starts to respond. 90 days of focus can shape your habits, refine your character, and reveal what's been within you all along, the ability to choose a direction and see it through. When you give your attention completely to one purpose, you become something rare. You move differently, think differently, and command your days with intent. 90 days may seem short, but in truth, it's enough to build a foundation that will carry you for years. Each sunrise becomes an opportunity to strengthen your focus, to remind yourself of the person you're becoming, and to keep moving in that single, deliberate direction that leads to mastery. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that their attention has been scattered across too many things. They've been busy, but not productive, active, but not advancing. The mind, when divided, loses its power, yet when focused, even for a short concentrated period, it becomes unstoppable. 90 days of focus, pure, deliberate focus, can change everything you believe about what is possible for you. It doesn't take a lifetime to change. It takes a decision followed by consistent action. When you decide to focus for 90 days, you begin to reorder your world. You stop giving your energy to what drains you. You stop saying yes to things that don't align with your highest purpose. Each morning becomes an opportunity to recommit to the goal you've chosen. You rise with a plan instead of a wish. You act with intention instead of impulse. That single act of choosing where to place your attention begins to separate you from who you used to be. The first 10 days test your discipline. Distractions appear louder, more tempting, as if the world senses that you're pulling away from it. But persistence breaks resistance. With each day you stay true to your direction, you weaken the pull of everything unimportant. You begin to feel something shift within you. A growing control over your time and your emotions. You are no longer reacting to life. You are shaping it, molding it, guiding it toward a definite purpose. By the 30th day, patterns begin to emerge. The unnecessary starts to fall away naturally. People, habits, and routines that once consumed your hours no longer fit into your vision. The clutter in your mind begins to clear. You notice how powerful simplicity can be when you stop scattering your energy. Progress replaces procrastination. Your work becomes sharper. Your thinking more precise. You begin to feel alignment, a sense that your thoughts, actions, and goals are finally moving in the same direction. Around the halfway mark, something remarkable happens. You start to build momentum. What was once effort becomes rhythm. Focus turns into flow. You no longer have to force yourself to act because the path ahead feels natural, even effortless. That's the power of consistency. It transforms discipline into habit and habit into identity. You're no longer trying to become focused. You are focused. Your life begins to reflect the clarity of your mind. By the 60th day, your confidence deepens. The gap between intention and execution narrows. You begin to trust yourself in ways you never did before. You see that success isn't about speed, it's about direction. You understand that focus is not about doing more, but doing only what matters. Time starts working for you instead of against you. You experience a calm determination that others mistake for luck. But it's not luck, it's control. It's the quiet certainty that comes from staying true to one thing long enough to see it grow. As you continue, you begin to feel how rare focus really is. In a world constantly fighting for your attention, choosing to stay centered on one vision is an act of strength. Each day adds another layer of belief, another ounce of mastery. You're building something that can't be faked. Character, consistency, clarity. The rewards begin to show themselves not just in results, but in who you're becoming. You think clearer, move faster, and carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows exactly where they're going. By the 90th day, the transformation is visible. You've proven to yourself that focus is a skill, not a gift. You've learned that 90 days of unwavering commitment can accomplish what years of distraction never could. You've developed a mind that doesn't chase everything. It creates direction. And that direction begins to define your future, one intentional day at a time. 90 days can seem like a small window of time, but within it lies the power to rebuild your life from the inside out. The difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't found in luck or talent. It's found in focus. Focus sharpens the mind, strengthens your will, and gives your energy a single, unstoppable direction. When you commit to a period of 90 days with absolute clarity, you discover what you're truly capable of. You realize that most of your limitations were never real. They were simply scattered thoughts, untrained habits, and misplaced attention. From the moment you begin, the world around you will challenge your decision. Distractions will whisper that you can start tomorrow. Excuses will tell you that consistency isn't possible. But deep down, a stronger voice begins to rise, the voice that knows progress demands sacrifice. You start to understand that every minute you waste in distraction is a piece of your potential slipping away. 90 days of focus isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about showing up when it's inconvenient, staying committed when results aren't immediate, and trusting that small steps, repeated daily, create something extraordinary. As you move through the first few weeks, you begin to see how much of your time was previously consumed by the unnecessary. Notifications, gossip, doubts, and endless comparison, all of it fades as you give your attention to what truly matters. You begin to appreciate the stillness that focus brings. Your mornings become sacred. Your work becomes deliberate, and your thoughts begin to carry power. You stop trying to do everything and start mastering one thing. That shift alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. By the 30th day, you start to feel different. You wake up with a clearer sense of direction. You don't need to search for motivation because the momentum of progress has begun to take over. You see results where there were none before, not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you became more efficient, more present, more determined. You realize that success doesn't come from intensity alone. It comes from consistency. Day after day, decision after decision, you're shaping yourself into someone who finishes what they start. By the halfway point, your focus becomes your identity. You no longer struggle to stay disciplined. It becomes part of who you are. The distractions that once pulled you away no longer have power because you've built the habit of control. The people around you might not understand your silence, your distance, or your drive, but that's because focus often looks like isolation before it turns into transformation. You begin to prefer solitude because that's where clarity grows. By the 60th day, you're no longer forcing progress. It's pulling you forward. You start to operate with confidence, and that confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, unshakable, and earned. You feel more in command of your thoughts, more aware of your patterns, and more capable of changing what doesn't serve you. You're no longer reacting to life. You're directing it. Every decision feels purposeful. Every action feels connected to something greater. As the days continue, your focus becomes a force. What once required discipline now feels natural. You begin to attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right results because your energy is no longer scattered. You move with precision, and that precision creates impact. You see how much can change when you give something your full attention without letting the noise of the world interfere. By the 90th day, you've built something few ever do, a mind that stays steady, a heart that stays committed, and a vision that refuses to blur. You've experienced what happens when you choose direction over distraction, purpose over impulse, and consistency over comfort. 90 days of focus doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. 90 days of pure, uninterrupted focus can redefine the limits of your mind, your habits, and your potential. Most people spend years waiting for the perfect time to begin. But the truth is, transformation begins the moment you decide to give your full attention to one goal. Focus is the great separator. It divides those who wish from those who achieve. When you devote 90 days to one vision, you stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. You start to see how much of your life has been diluted by distractions and how much power returns the moment you take control of your attention. From the first day, you begin to feel resistance. The mind will fight against change because it has grown comfortable in routine. It will search for distraction to justify procrastination and whisper doubts. But as you persist, a shift occurs. You start realizing that focus is not about fighting distractions, it's about forgetting they exist. You begin to live in a smaller, quieter world, one where only your purpose and progress matter. Every decision starts to filter through a single question: does this move me closer to my goal or farther away? That clarity brings freedom. Within the first few weeks, small victories begin to appear. You wake earlier, think clearer, and feel lighter. The noise of the outside world starts to fade because you've chosen silence over stimulation, progress over pleasure. You begin to understand that focus is not intensity, it's consistency. It's showing up on the days when motivation is gone. It's doing what matters even when no one notices. And that consistency starts to build trust in yourself, trust in your discipline, trust in your direction. By the 30th day, distractions that once controlled your attention begin to lose their power. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop wasting energy on people and conversations that don't align with your mission. Your environment begins to change because you're no longer drawn to things that dilute your energy. Instead, you're drawn to what strengthens it. You start to see how focus creates clarity and clarity creates peace. There's no more guessing, no more confusion, only movement toward your chosen goal. By the halfway mark, focus starts to transform your identity. You no longer think of yourself as someone trying to be disciplined. You become discipline itself. You develop a calm intensity that carries you forward. You start to understand that mastery doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less with greater depth. Your mind grows sharper because you've removed the clutter that once filled it. You notice how your energy lasts longer, your creativity flows easier, and your confidence grows stronger. You feel a deep sense of alignment between what you think, what you say, and what you do. By the 60th day, momentum begins to build. You've replaced old habits with new ones, and those new habits start working for you instead of against you. The gap between thought and action grows smaller. You no longer need to push yourself because movement has become automatic. Focus has become your natural state. People may begin to notice the change, but they won't understand it fully because real focus is invisible. It's quiet, internal, and deeply personal. It doesn't shout, it works. As you enter the final stretch, you realize that these 90 days have not just been about achieving a goal. They've been about becoming the kind of person who can achieve anything. You've trained your mind to obey your will. You've learned how to silence doubt, how to control impulse, and how to replace distraction with discipline. The confidence you feel now isn't temporary. It's built on proof. You've shown yourself that 90 days of focus can do what years of wishing never could. You've turned direction into strength, clarity into momentum, and effort into transformation. 90 days of focus has the power to turn ordinary effort into extraordinary transformation. It's not a magic number, but it's long enough to reprogram the mind, reshape your habits, and redirect your energy toward what truly matters. Most people never experience what deep, sustained focus feels like because they scatter their attention across too many things. They chase everything and capture nothing. But when you dedicate 90 days to one mission, one discipline, one direction, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to align your mind, your time, and your actions into a single, powerful force. In the beginning, the challenge is mental. You realize how restless the mind really is. It jumps from idea to idea, task to task, constantly seeking stimulation. The first test is not how hard you work, but how still you can become. Focus demands that you quiet the noise, slow down your impulses, and bring all of yourself into the present. You learn to stop reacting and start responding. You become aware of how much energy you've been wasting on things that add nothing to your growth. The moment you reclaim that energy, progress begins. Each day you commit to focus, you train your mind to obey. You choose purpose over distraction and tension over convenience. The first few weeks can feel uncomfortable because focus exposes your habits. It reveals where you've been inconsistent and where you've been avoiding responsibility. But the discomfort is necessary. It means change is happening beneath the surface. As you keep going, focus begins to strengthen your character. You start to act with more precision, more patience, more power. You no longer chase everything that glitters because you've learned that not everything that shines leads you forward. By the 30th day, your discipline begins to solidify. You find rhythm in your days. You start anticipating challenges instead of being surprised by them. Your focus becomes a shield that protects you from distractions that once seemed irresistible. You stop comparing your path to others because your only competition is the person you were yesterday. The simplicity of having one clear direction brings peace. You no longer feel pulled in 10 different ways. You know what matters, and that clarity gives you strength. Around the halfway mark, focus turns into flow. You notice that your actions require less effort because your habits have aligned with your goals. You begin to enjoy the process instead of just chasing the outcome. There's a calm intensity that builds inside you, the quiet power of consistency. Others may not see the work you're doing, but you feel it. You feel the difference in how you think, how you move, how you respond to the world. You realize that focus isn't just about attention. It's about energy. What you give your energy to grows, and now all of it is feeding your vision. By the 60th day, your results start to multiply. Small improvements stack into visible progress. The things that once felt impossible begin to unfold naturally because you've become the kind of person who follows through. You start noticing opportunities that were always there but invisible to an unfocused mind. You attract better conversations, better ideas, better outcomes because your energy no longer leaks into distractions. Focus gives you presence, and presence gives you power. You're not just doing more, you're doing it with clarity and conviction. As the final stretch approaches, your focus feels effortless. You've built momentum that no longer needs constant motivation to sustain it. You've proven that real change doesn't come from occasional inspiration. It comes from daily discipline. 90 days of focus have turned chaos into order, hesitation into certainty, and goals into reality. You've discovered the truth that few ever realize. When your attention is undivided, your potential becomes unlimited. The same time that once slipped through your fingers now works for you, building the life you've always been capable of creating. 90 days of focused living can alter the entire course of your life. Most people underestimate what can happen in a short, defined period when all their energy moves in one direction. They drift through days filled with scattered effort and divided attention, never realizing how much strength they truly possess. But when you decide to focus, really focus, for 90 days, you begin to experience what clarity feels like. You stop operating in chaos and start moving with intention. You stop reacting to the world and begin shaping it through deliberate thought and consistent action. At first, it feels unnatural. Your mind resists discipline because it has grown comfortable with noise. It seeks distraction in small comforts, old habits, and familiar routines. The first few days test your patience and expose how much time you've been giving to things that don't move you forward. But this is where transformation begins. Focus is forged in discomfort. When you choose to stay centered despite temptation, you strengthen your mental muscles. Each time you ignore a distraction, you reclaim a piece of your potential. Every small victory builds a foundation for the larger change that's coming. By the second week, your awareness starts to heighten. You notice how often you've been pulled by impulses, how much of your energy has been wasted on trivial things. You begin to see your thoughts differently, not as commands but as choices. You choose what to give attention to and what to ignore. You begin to simplify your life, cutting away the excess that once consumed you. You replace the constant rush with stillness, and from that stillness comes focus. Focus gives birth to clarity, and clarity gives birth to power. By the 30th day, small shifts start to appear. You find yourself waking with purpose instead of pressure. You begin to anticipate challenges before they arrive. The goals that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable because you're no longer trying to do everything. You're doing the right things. You realize that mastery doesn't come from chasing more, it comes from committing deeply to less. The distractions that once seemed irresistible now feel unimportant. You feel lighter because you've learned to carry only what matters. At the halfway point, momentum starts to build. Focus becomes less of a discipline and more of a habit. You no longer need to force yourself to stay on track. It's who you are now. You've trained your mind to obey your will. There's a quiet confidence growing inside you, the kind that doesn't depend on praise or validation. You begin to understand that focus isn't about speed, it's about direction. Moving fast means nothing if you're heading nowhere. But 90 days of focus creates forward motion with purpose, precision, and control. By the 60th day, people around you start to notice a difference. They see your calmness, your consistency, your certainty. You no longer explain yourself because your results speak louder than your words. You begin to value time differently. Every hour has meaning. Every action serves a purpose. You stop trying to fit in because you found something greater than approval. You found alignment. You no longer live for distraction. You live for creation. As the final stretch arrives, your transformation becomes undeniable. You've proven that focus is not about working harder but working clearer. You've discovered that the real battle is never against the outside world, but within your own attention. You've learned that 90 days of unwavering concentration can build the kind of discipline that carries into every area of life. The confidence that grows from this process is unshakable because it's earned, not borrowed. You've become deliberate with your energy, intentional with your actions, and at peace with your direction. The power of 90 days lies not in the calendar, but in the person you become through the process.